Let's rock.
While Duke Nukem was originally released in 1991 for DOS, my first contact with the game was not until he made the jump to 3D, back in 1996. The first two games came on that very disc, but as a teenager more interested in shaking things up rather than experiencing gaming history in the making, I kind of didn't get very far. Well, times change. Nikolai, aka Lethal Guitar, and Blaze Entertainment gifted us with this remastered version in 2023. So, is this the revival we all have been waiting for? Or does this remaster nuke the Duke once and for all? Well, let's find out. And story is first. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Come on, it's the Duke. Who gives a shit about the story? Well, I do. Kinda. The story is split in 3 episodes, each 10 levels long. So let's start with episode 1, The Shrapnel Menace. The story is brought forward via text boxes. Yeah, I know. How terrible. A game where you actually have to read. Anyway, it is 1997. The future. And Dr. Proton and his Terminators have taken over the world's largest city to start his master plan of world domination. Wait, this sounds rather familiar. Anyway, LA is pretty much screwed and the world's military could not stop this psychopath. It's time for Earth's finest and final weapon, Duke Nukem, the man himself. But before getting into the action, let's witness a playground chat between our hero and Dr. Proton. Oh my god. Earth is so screwed if it comes to those two preschool morons fighting it out. It soon becomes obvious that this war won't be won with a pen. Oh man, I'm so looking forward to the character section of this review. Anyway, let's start shooting shit. At this point, if you don't want story spoilers, yeah, funny I know. Anyway, it has to be said. So if you don't want spoilers, go to here. I'm glad you're still here. There isn't much to spoil anyway. So, after our Duke of Hazard managed to shred his way through the city and across a mountain, he arrives at Dr. Proton's hidden base and comes across a subtle but first hint regarding a time machine. Yeah, let me tell you already, this will be the major plot twist. So, our blondie without voice is deep inside of Dr. Proton's lair, surrounded by killer robots and with no way out. Now, don't expect some kind of iron-flaming reveal or so. More like something out of a good old Dudikoff movie. It's time to fight the boss of Chapter 1, Dr. Proton, the mastermind himself. He has this cool jetpack lawnmower in which he flies around and shoots like once every couple of seconds. Not really a threat. So it is no surprise that our red shirt with his pimped up gun outcasts him to the moon. But not without quoting his idol, John Stryker. You can run, but you can't hide. Duke, with his iron will to eradicate Dr. Proton from the face of this planet and its moon, takes off and follows him. It's time for episode 2, Attack of the Moonheads. Dr. Proton is surprised that Airhead Duke managed to find his secret moonbase. I mean, yeah, really? All he had to do is to use one of those transporters from the hideout. Man, it would be really a close call if these two would compete for the title of most f***ing stupid moron on Earth. Anyway, on the moonbase, the Duke finds more hints towards a time machine. Or he even finds an actual time machine. This is a little bit unclear to me, since if it would have been a time machine, as explained in the intro of episode 2, Duke could have just traveled to the past and finished Dr. Proton off. Let me think a while about this conundrum. Or maybe not. I just assume that these are signs that should guide tourists to the main attraction, like at bloody Disney or so. Anyway, after some more carnage, Duke has to face Dr. Proton in his flying wheelchair once again, and is victorious once again. The end? No. Dr. Proton escapes back to where it all started, Earth. But this time he travels to future Earth to gather his future army. Then to return and exterminate our hero once and for all. But as stupid as he is, he did not think about Duke McFly simply following his every footstep. So our selfless hero arrives at the final chapter of the game. Episode 3, Back to the Future. Once there, Duke the Fluke massacres a couple of hundred bots and goes on a stroll through Cloud City while the Doc's motherships gather in the background. This reminds me more of Episode 9. It's quite unbelievable how even so-called blockbusters have such similar and lame plots. Anyway, the time has come to fight Dr. Proton. Again. He's sitting in his flying replica of A.G. Wells' time machine. Again. So after the devs exposed us to some tough epilepsy-inducing shit, El Ducerino finally finishes off Dr. Proton once and for all, returns to present Earth, and gets the key to the city. Yeah, like he would even give a shit. Well, anyway, that's the story, and it's time to roll the credits. And typically remasters show the credits of the least involved people first. And at the end, they give something like an honorable hint to the actual devs. Not in this remaster. The credits roll and the first names to appear are the programmer and the artists of the original game. Now that's what I call being respectful. Well done. And with this conclusion of the story, let's briefly talk about the world. Very briefly. Because I can't wait to talk more about our two morons in the character section. Okay, so the world is set in a somewhat post-apocalyptic future. 1997. Where Dr. Proton is trying to take over the world. The backdrops show a destroyed city that could have been taken straight out of Terminator's future. But that's not all. There's some visual variation by visiting the mountains. And Dr. Proton's base. The Duke even goes on a spacewalk. And if you now think that this will change the mechanics and make him move like in slow motion, worry not. I guess he has got some kind of future tech shit built into his boots and can continue his rampage without giving a shit about low G. Anyway, late in the story, he also visits future Earth. While this is some nice pixel art, especially for the time, there's really not much of any kind of world building going on here. Sure, a post-apocalyptic Earth, a hidden moon base, and a future utopia sound great on paper, but the world just acts as a backdrop, quite literally, to support the gameplay. If you're searching for a classic game with a deep story and a world with a dense atmosphere, well, you're better off checking out some point-and-click adventures of the era. And that already says a ton about Duke Nukem's characters. Well, both of them. So let's get this straight. There's no army, no special unit, and no police force in the whole world that could have coped with the one and only supervillain, Dr. Proton. No. That's a job for Macho Man himself, Duke the f***ing Nukem. At this time you may already predict the score I'll give the game for story, world and characters. But hey, it's not like I only love Oscar-worthy storylines in video games anyway. Scrap that. Nowadays the Oscars actually mean jack shit. Anyway, I love me some good old 80s B-movies. And hey, I was indeed wondering why the Duke never got a live-action movie adaptation. I mean, at the time, it was near the prime of all my childhood superheroes. They had all the great actors to choose from. Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Michael Dudikoff, Dolph Lundgren, Michael Biehn, and Eric Pirius, who was already in the gaming industry. For God's sake, even Steven Seagal would have done the trick. At least before he started to make those crappy nature movies. Anyway, back to Duke Nukem. With every dialogue, the Duke and Dr. Proton seem to get more bloody stupid. I mean, honestly now, this is the guy that threatens Earth. And this is the guy that is supposed to save Earth. Yeah, both together don't even reach the IQ of a f***ing dinosaur. And Dr. Proton is so bloody annoying. Yeah, he keeps yapping away trying to make the story interesting. But hell, does he always have to have a stupid comment up his sleeve when you pass by his CCTV system? Then again, how is he doing this? So the Duke strolls around left and right, and Proton's head always turns into the direction. Is Dr. Proton like in a recording room and has like a director telling him to turn his head left or right while monitoring our hero's movement? And what for? Doesn't a maniac reaching out for world domination have better things to do than just such preschool bullshit? And then he talks about Duke's intellect. No, really? But then again, he experienced some pretty traumatic shit. At the beginning of the game, we got to know that Dr. Proton's brain was f***ing fried in a radiation incident. But still, that's no excuse to go for world domination instead of making your way to the shrink's office. But I have to admit, the characters also have their good sides. Well, I mean, besides their beautiful pixel art from the early 90s. So, Duke Croft also found his bloody British side. Well, yeah, that's that. Okay, that's actually all I have to say about the characters. All in all, the story is pretty flat and only serves the purpose of building up the annoyance to have to read before getting into the action. The world is beautiful, but without world building, and the two characters are, well, there. It's funny to see how Duke Nukem reduces Ian Fleming's creativity to its basics. Then again, we are not here for the story. I don't watch an instant classic such as Delta Force 2 for its story. And anyone who tells me that this is a shitty movie should go back to the broken mountain. And with that, I give story, world and characters a 4.8 out of 10. Okay, now that the mandatory things are out of the way, let's get to the good stuff. Uphill from here, I promise. What makes the Duke's first adventure truly remarkable is its gameplay. Let's start with the settings menu. Here you can adjust all kinds of stuff to make your retro heart flourish, or to go more for the modern take on Duke's first adventure. You can choose whether you want your preset to be modern, retro, or customize the individual settings. Let's leave it at modern for now. The game keeps track of your completion level as well as your high scores, and you can conveniently check these in the main menu. And lastly, before we dive into our hero's tedious daily job, you can select the different episodes from the get-go, so you don't have to start from the beginning if you don't want to. All the menus are pretty much old school. I mean, you got a button for load game, but everything with a very fresh coat of high-definition paint and sound. Alright, Game Mechanics 101. The basic stuff. Get keys, open doors, and to keep you entertained use cool gadgets and kill enemies in between. Then, get more keys, open more doors, and reach the end of the level. But if you think that this game is your run-of-the-mill run-and-gun, you couldn't be more wrong. The levels are often maze-like. Hell, even Dr. Proton mentions it. I see this first Duke Nukem adventure as more of a puzzle/maze platformer. There is some shooting, but it's mostly about finding your way to the exit. And with the introduction of teleporters, walking escalators and lifts fairly early in the game, it makes for some really good level design. Let's talk about some of the items that are hidden inside of those boxes that some idiot conveniently littered like everywhere. First, the grey boxes. Dynamite. What a f***ing surprise. So yeah, just jump out of the way. But you kinda want to shoot every box open. Some have awesome goodies inside, like the letters that form the word Duke. Yeah, awesome. We already pointed out earlier that our Duke is more the simple kind of person. So yeah, makes sense to review the spelling of your own name again and again. Just make sure to collect them in the right order to get the max points. If you don't, you also miss out on those sweet little bonus points at the end of the level. Nuclear molecules that completely restore your health. And some boxes even have jack shit inside. These grey ones are like boxes of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. The blue boxes. Yeah, surprise. No bots in here. So, the blue ones are more for the high score chasers. If you're not one of them, you don't have to give a shit. But if you are, well, better open those up. But the best ones are those that have the red balloons inside. And yeah, not sure how many there are in total in the game. Would be hilarious though if the total would add up to 99. So anyway, to honor Nina, they give the most amount of points, they are like 10k a pop. But be careful, don't shoot them and don't let them go off, because then you don't get a damn thing. The red boxes. No shirts inside. But hey, at least you get health recovery items. Beer. Classic. A blonde for a blonde. Okay, not quite the hard stuff that our dear Carnby pours down. But hey, Duke still needs to save the world, and it is scientifically proven that beer replenishes your electrolytes. So there. And if you already have enough health, well then just shoot them and catch them mid-air for more points. And yeah, I know that in the original DOS version the cans were just soda cans. But you gotta admit that beer and Duke match perfectly to each other. Turkey legs. And hey, shoot them and you get a whole turkey. Duke Nukem, a family guy through and through. Enough about the boxes now, this isn't Sokoban after all. Enemies are next. Johnny 5. I always knew that his character in Short Circuit was all just a big pile of crap. He was designed to kill after all. Wall crawler. Harmless and stupid. Tank Tech Bot. Satisfying to kill since they are pretty slow. Flying Tech Bot. Really annoying since they just close up on you like that chick's ugly best friend. ED209. Only 2 words. Awesome. Loved these already in Robocop and great to see them back in the game. Firewheel Tech Bot. Can only be damaged when the flamethrowers are off. And the helicopter. Same annoying as the flying tech bot, but even fatter. So how do you kill all those bastards? How many weapons are there in the game? Well, the answer is simple. Yes. There's only one weapon. Well, our killing machine doesn't really need more than that. And you can upgrade the rate of fire all the way up to 4. And at this point, thanks to the devs for not taking this too seriously. The RPS is completely disregarded once the bullet hits something. You can then immediately shoot again. Everything else would have been super annoying when dealing with these bloody brick walls. So, power-ups? Not necessary, but welcome. Then again, to get some of those, you need to go way out of your way. Okay, and then there is still some end level stuff. If you complete these tasks, you get bonus points. Destroy all cameras. Well, at least this makes sense in the context of the story, since it is the only way that Dr. Proton can follow Duke's steps. But then again, it doesn't influence the game at all. Some trap signs from a company that makes everything that drop on Duke's head. I don't even get why his health goes down when he gets hit by this shit. I mean, knock knock Duke. Not much to get damaged in there. Launch rockets. Awesome. But did anyone think about that these are weapons of mass destruction and they will need to come down, like, eventually? Then again, it's the Duke. He's not much of a thinker. Destroying snake tech bots. Whatever. And here it is again. This is why Karens hate video games. You have these cute bunnies that run towards our Duke and just want a hug. And what does he do? He bloody massacres them. Well, at least he shows some mercy on those innocent animals. Not like that Italian plumber that abuses turtles by jumping on them and then kicks them against pipes over and over again. Anyway, the game tells you that these are bunny tech bots. But come on. We all know that this is just to please those couple of brain-dead extremists that disguise themselves as honorable PETA members. And lastly for the mechanics, some useful toys. Keycards to deactivate force fields. Or boots for Mr. Nukem to reach unprecedented heights in his career and get to stuff at places no man has been before. The Robo-Hand. It's actually a power glove in disguise. The Duke plays with power. Oh yeah. The grappling hook. Not only to progress within the levels, but especially important to access secret areas. So here's the thing. Everything carries over between levels. But you lose all these items and power-ups at the beginning of each episode. To summarize the game mechanics, a good variety which makes for a fun level design in a game which controls... How exactly? I'm glad you asked. Well, basic controls, as you would expect for a 2D platformer. What I love and what reminds me of some PC classics? Quick save and quick load button combinations. It's just so freaking fast and seamless. And actually that's it for the controls. These are simply excellent, precise and responsive. So what more is there to say? In summary, the levels start off basic and unveil their full potential later on when several of the game elements have to be combined to reach the exit. It's a nice difficulty curve that also goes down at the beginning of each and every episode since you lose all your power-ups. The game is more of a maze/puzzle platformer rather than a run and gun. Yeah, weird considering the main character's personality, I know. The controls work perfectly and save spammers are welcome. With this, and considering the era in which the game got released, the gameplay scores an 8.5 out of 10. I mentioned safe spammers. Yeah, you can do this. Is it necessary though? Not really. The game is actually pretty easy, and that's not only by design. The presentation of this remaster makes the game way simpler than it used to be. So let's look at that. The remaster runs at a smooth 60 frames per second, in widescreen, 1080p. A very sharp pixel art that captures the feel of the original game. Visually, a great conservation and expansion, meaning that areas that were not visible before are visible now. So you end up seeing much more, much earlier, like enemies, traps and platforms. This makes the remaster way easier, well at least when you have widescreen enabled. The new interface is well arranged and looks fantastic in high definition. And there are some nice graphical effects, which to my surprise were already included in the original DOS version. Like the cameras following Duke's every movement. Or reflections that also have a depth to them. There's also a good backdrop variety for the different episodes, which is even more enjoyable in this remaster with its super smooth parallax scrolling. It is remarkable what they pulled off in the original. And yeah, the frame rate was terrible and the screen size small to say the least. But still. So in this version you can choose between the modern and the retro mode by the press of a button. Yeah, once I played the modern mode, there was no way for me to go back. The only criticism I have here is that the cutscenes are kept at the original 4x3. I would have wished for the devs to draw the additional areas in the same style and have all these as well in widescreen. Which brings us to sound. Let's get the obvious out of the way. In terms of sound, the level end screen is a blatant Doom ripoff. And it's awesome. I see it more of a handshake between my personal DOS heroes, the Doom guy and Duke Nukem. I can't complain about the other sound effects. They are fitting for the game's age and are just great. Whether it's the bouncing of the red balls or enemies shooting, it's all fitting. But what is even better than the sound is the music. So I get it. Perfectionists won't accept Duke 3D-ish music in these classic games. I get it. But this title screen music, simply awesome. When I first fired up the game, I was stuck here for minutes with sparkling eyes and all. It completely captured me. And there are as well great background tunes while playing. These are chill, they don't distract from the gameplay and are not in your face. So again, I get it. There was no background music in the original game. And if you wish for such an experience, well, simply head over to the settings and deactivate the music and adjust the other settings to your liking. But for me, it just adds so much more to the atmosphere of the game. Honestly, I wouldn't wanna miss it. Alright, to summarize the presentation, the game's visuals look excellent running at 60 FPS in 1080p. The sounds are true to the source material and they added an excellent end level effect. The music is just an absolute joy to listen to, catchy where it can, and chill where it needs to be. So all in all, the presentation of Duke Nukem 1 Remastered deserves an 8.8 out of 10. On to the overall score. With this remaster you get the same forgettable story and atmosphere as in the original game, as well as the standard B-movie characters. But then again, you're not here to witness an epic, life-changing story. You're here for the solid gameplay and the fun level design, and to shoot shit. This is emphasized by fluent, great visuals and awesome sound and music. Overall, Duke Nukem 1 Remastered scores a 7.4 out of 10. And hear me out, if you don't give a shit about the story, world and characters, just go ahead and add at least one more point to the score. In summary, this work of art is a cult classic modernized for a new audience. Which brings us to final thoughts. I hope that this work of art can get ported to other platforms. So I do love the Evercade and what it stands for, but I would hate for this remaster not being able to hit a broader audience. It deserves more recognition and can hopefully breathe new life into Duke Nukem's Fallen Kingdom. I want new adventures, starring Duke Nukem. And look, I get that this is not your standard Duke Nukem 1. To achieve what has been achieved, it had to be dismantled, heavily worked on, and carefully reassembled. So even when playing in retro mode, you won't get the original DOS experience. You won't find that here. But what you will find is a remaster crafted with a lot of love and effort to keep the original as possible while modernizing the game and respecting its source material. Well, this is all I had to say. Only one thing left. Thanks for sticking around till the end of this review of Duke Nukem 1 Remastered. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.